The drama between Charleston White and Karmelo Anthony's dad was already intense, like next-level tension that had everyone watching closely. At first, it was just Charleston White going off publicly, throwing shade and making heavy implications about money being swindled. Remember those controversial Karmelo Anthony watermelon felon shirts he posted? That stirred quite a bit of heat all on its own. But then, Charleston White decided to push things way past the line of what anyone considered acceptable. Honestly, even though I respect Charleston White and have followed his journey, what he did next crossed a boundary I can't get behind. It's just too much. There's a line you don't cross, no matter how heated things get. And unfortunately, this time, he stepped over it. If you're not caught up yet, let me fill you in. A couple of days ago, Charleston White dropped a video that reignited the feud with Karmelo Anthony's dad. Things escalated quickly after that.
I was starting to feel like I was being used for my influence and my connections and resources. When I tell you we raised over $1 million one day, privately, quietly, they wanted to start another GoFundMe. I said, no, I'm not doing the GoFundMe. They wanted to know, after we pay for the pill, will the money go to them? No. The extra money don't go back to you. It goes back to the people who gave it. It don't go to nothing else. The money is for the pill. So, going forward, I am no longer walking with nor associated or helping Karmelo Anthony. His daddy in the way. I don't like weak, I hate weak men. I'd rather stand with a strong daddy like that meth cap man than his black weak father trying to play victim. Now, your son's still living. Hug him, send him some books to read. I got the money, let's start to work on the pill. Anything else don't make sense. What's wrong with you? So.
And, to be honest, I even gave Charleston a little grace when he released those 35 years watermelon fellas shirts. It seemed, at the time, like Charleston had deep personal issues with Karmelo's dad, almost like he was taking out his frustrations on the father through the son, which, while still controversial, felt a bit more like venting. I was willing to look past it, assuming it was some complicated backstory we didn't know about. But now, it's clear that things went far beyond just airing grievances or making a statement. Don't dig too deep into this. It's a classic case of careful maneuvering and, honestly, some serious bootlicking at its peak. But here's the thing, we chose to look the other way. Why? Because Charleston White had a personal grudge against Karmelo Anthony's father. That personal conflict became the lens through which everything was viewed, blinding us to the bigger picture. It even went further. Charleston White leaked private messages he had sent to Karmelo's dad. To most people, that alone would have been shocking enough, an invasion of privacy that felt unsettling. But still, it barely stirred the pot. Then things got even more twisted. Charleston White actually sent texts directly to Karmelo Anthony himself, calling him Daddy. An odd, almost provocative move, and promised that he would make sure Karmelo faced harsh treatment behind bars. Imagine that, dragging a son into a personal feud with his father, and threatening him with suffering in prison. Why would anyone do that? Why escalate a personal dispute to the point of hoping someone endures hardship or harm in such a brutal environment? It made no sense. Yet, despite how extreme and uncomfortable this behavior was, we continued to turn a blind eye. Because at the end of the day, the narrative was framed as just a personal beef between Charleston White and Karmelo Anthony's father, not something to blow up or dissect any further. But today, I simply can't ignore what I just uncovered about Charleston White. Look, I've always respected and even liked Charleston White for the way he speaks his mind, but there's a line, a clear line, between right and wrong in what he did. It crosses that line in a way that's deeply unsettling. I'm honestly disgusted. It's the kind of betrayal that makes your stomach knot up, because it goes beyond just a misstep. It's a fundamental breach of trust. I can't just sweep this under the rug or pretend it didn't happen. This isn't a small matter. It's serious, man, and it's absolutely not okay. Here's what went down. After months of Charleston White getting close to the Karmelo Anthony family, building trust, working with them, learning intimate and sensitive details about their situation and struggles, we now find out that he handed over that private information to none other than Officer Tatum. For those who don't know, Officer Tatum is widely regarded as one of the biggest internet figures aligned with what many critique as promoting narratives that fuel division, often described as an advocate for white supremacy ideologies online. In essence, he acts as a mouthpiece for perspectives deeply offensive to many black communities. And now, Charleston White has betrayed the Karmelo Anthony family, handing over what he learned directly to Officer Tatum. Imagine the weight of that, taking confidential personal information and giving it to someone so controversial, someone whose views are not just oppositional, but actively harmful to so many people, including the family Charleston said he cared about.
Charleston, he called me on the phone. So I'm going to give him a break here. I still got a report on it, but he called me on the phone. He told me some damning things about the Karmelo Anthony's family. Now, I'm not going to say what he told me on the phone. I'm going to let him say his own stuff.
This is more than just a disagreement or difference of opinion. This is a breach of loyalty and respect on a whole new level. You just can't do that, man. This kind of move, it's cold, it's calculated, and it's absolutely not something you overlook. There are personal grievances, sure, but this isn't how you handle things. This crosses into a territory that breaks trust and makes it impossible to look at Charleston White the same way again. Let's talk about the family and how trust, once given, can be shattered in the blink of an eye. Imagine drawing close to someone's inner circle, gaining access to their personal world, their vulnerabilities, their truths. That's powerful. But now, picture taking all of that sacred, sensitive information and handing it over to a figure whose entire online presence has been dedicated to undermining the very community you come from. A person who openly defends racist systems and keeps black voices suppressed at every turn. That's exactly what happened here. Someone took intimate details from the family of Karmelo Anthony, a respected figure in the community, and passed them straight to Brandon Tatum, a man known for defending, and sometimes even excusing, white supremacy in his online platform. Charleston White, a controversial figure himself, has played with elements that many found deeply troubling, whether it's adopting overt symbols like the Confederate flag or embodying the Uncle Ruckus stereotype, which mocks and betrays black identity. For a while, many hoped there was still some common ground, some loyalty beneath all that noise. But this moment, this choice to reach out to Brandon Tatum with sensitive family information, shattered that hope completely. It's not just gossip, it's betrayal at the highest level.
Should have did it, but they wanted to be about race so they could raise money and play the victim. Because that victim stuff don't work on people no more. It's not 2020. There's no George Floyd no more. We done already caught onto that grift. They should have made that boy take the stand and had him cry and do whatever you need to do on that stand to humanize him. But these people, in my opinion, are looking for get-rich-quick coming-uppings. They want to come up off of that boy's death. His own family, in my personal opinion, and I think they were misguided. But these other fools that be joining in and want to be social justice warriors.
What makes it all the more disturbing is the intent behind sharing that information. This wasn't about opening a dialogue or seeking truth with good intentions. No, it was a deliberate move to hand over private details to someone who would weaponize them in service of racial division. It was about fueling a machine of harm, using trust in a family's vulnerability as fuel for a platform that has been built on keeping black people pushed down and marginalized. This isn't a simple misstep. It's a clear act of cooperating with those whose agendas actively work against black empowerment. And to many watching, it feels like a line was crossed that shouldn't ever be crossed. The impact is profound, the personal made public, the private used as a weapon, and the fragile trust completely broken. It leaves many of us asking, where do you go from here when the ones who should protect your truth are the same ones handing it over to embolden the opposition? Now, let's talk about the whole Karmelo Anthony situation. Because as you'll hear later in this video, this story is about way more than just one person. What's happening here is a calculated move to weaken and undermine the black community on multiple levels, and this tactic is being led by one of the loudest voices involved. You'll get to hear Nick Fuentes' take a little later on. And even from his perspective, the conversation oddly drifts into referencing Emmett Till, revealing a deeper, more insidious strategy. It becomes clear that this isn't just random noise. It's a carefully orchestrated attempt to use Karmelo Anthony's situation as a symbol to attack and diminish Black people's influence and standing in society. What's even more troubling is seeing figures like Charleston White align themselves with individuals such as Brandon Tatum, who have controversial reputations when it comes to community loyalty. To me, this feels like a betrayal of the highest order. Almost unthinkable and certainly hard to forgive. It's like they've given a green light to this campaign to chip away at the gains made by Black communities. So, when I say this isn't really about Karmelo Anthony, trust me, it's bigger than one man. It's about an eagerness from certain groups to exploit this moment as a wedge, driving a division and using the incident as a tool in a much larger agenda to undermine Black voices and influence wherever they can. It's heartbreaking to see how all the hard-fought progress we've made over the past few years could be undone in an instant. Right now, some voices, let's call them Uncle Ruckus types, are seizing on this moment to push a harmful narrative. They're spinning a story that people standing up for Karmelo Anthony and the larger movement around him are somehow faking it or using it for personal gain. They're saying, oh, the George Floyd movement, that was just another grift, just another way to manipulate people. But how can anyone seriously claim that? George Floyd's death was very real. We didn't just hear about it or read it in the news. Millions of us saw it happen with our own eyes. The cold-blooded murder at the hands of a police officer was captured on camera, and that video shocked the world. Yet, despite this undeniable reality, some are now weaponizing the information that Charleston White gathered. He supposedly went behind the scenes, approached the family, and collected sensitive, private details. Details that should have been respected and protected. But instead of helping, he leaked this intel to white supremacists, giving them a powerful tool to tear apart the unity and progress we've worked so hard to build over these last few years. This betrayal isn't just disappointing, it's dangerous. It undermines the very foundation of trust and solidarity within the movement. What makes this situation even more troubling is that it's doubtful Charleston White actually provided any meaningful assistance to the family in the first place. Charles Dwight claims otherwise, but the reality seems to be completely different. It feels like this whole scenario was less about support and more about stirring division and feeding misinformation. The consequences are real. Real people's efforts eroded overnight. And for what? To serve a narrative that damages the community instead of helping it heal and grow?
What did I tell y'all? What did I tell y'all? You know, it's funny because I be so on point. I told y'all, that man is not giving up no $75,000. He ain't even got $75,000. But he's sitting up there playing with Karmelo Anthony family like that. What did I tell y'all? Did I not just tell y'all yesterday in the video that he's full of it? The man is a government plant, and he's going to use every situation that he can to turn the situation upside down and go viral. That boy got his back against the wall. That young boy went up under that tent and had four white boys ready to put him in a Boston Crab. They was ready to put him in a dope fiend, finger four, leg lock, all that, every wrestling move you could think of. But scratch that. It is what it is. He stood his ground. Oh, you mean to tell me they got a law that you can stand your ground that protects you when you're protecting yourself? But that law didn't work for that young black man, but scratch that. When are we going to cancel Charleston White? Are you not entertained, or are we here?
It's something we all need to reflect on deeply as we move forward. He claimed to have raised $1 million for the family, all in a single day. But here's the catch. The family still hasn't seen a single cent. So, where exactly did that $1 million go? This mystery has sparked a lot of controversy and confusion, and that's when Hassan Campbell stepped into the ring, unleashing a fierce critique aimed directly at Charles Dwight. Hassan didn't hold back. He accused Charles of being dishonest, even accusing him of exaggerating or lying about the amount of support he provided to the grieving family. From the outside looking in, it almost seemed like this whole situation was part of a bigger plan. It felt like Charleston White got involved with these people intentionally, maybe to gather information, fully knowing that he would eventually turn against them. Because honestly, if you just pause and think about it, it's hard to make sense of everything that's happened so far. Having disagreements or misunderstandings with a family is one thing, but then going behind their backs, that's a whole different level. Look, I have a lot of respect for Charleston White. I'm not here to cancel him or throw him under the bus just because I don't agree with everything. But at the same time, we have to be real and acknowledge that everyone, no matter who they are, should be held responsible for their actions. I get it. Sometimes people act out of frustration or anger, and some mistakes happen in the heat of the moment. But accountability is key, especially when trust and support are on the line. Ultimately, this whole drama serves as a reminder that transparency and honesty can't be ignored, especially when real lives are involved. Anger is natural, but there are lines you just don't cross, man. There's a level of respect that should never be broken, especially when it comes to loyalty within your own community. You don't align yourself with those who seek to tear us down. Not ever. It's just not right. Look, Charleston White made his name and wealth because of black culture. Black culture is the foundation of his success, the reason he went from obscurity to millions. So, the least he can do is show some loyalty, some respect to the people who lifted him up. That's only fair. But instead, what does he do? He goes and teams up with people who harbor dangerous, divisive views, white supremacist circles even. Worse, he's feeding them information, giving them the tools they need to attack and dismantle our community. That's not just disappointing, it's downright harmful. It's a betrayal, plain and simple. Now, don't just take my word for it. Listen very closely to what Nick Fuentes has to say about the Karmelo Anthony situation. Every single word matters here. When you really pay attention, it becomes crystal clear why we can't afford to give an inch, even a tiny one.
This is supposed to be a human being thing. Where's all the condemnation from the other black people? Did black people condemn this vicious act of human evil against another human? No. They raised $800,000 to defend the murderer from accountability. Not only did the black community rally in his defense, saying free him and raising money for his legal defense, they also protested outside the courthouse, demanding that he be let go even today, saying he was provoked, he was acting in self-defense. So is it a human being thing? Is it ever? Was it a human being thing when it was George Floyd, Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin, O.J. Simpson? Was it a human being thing when it was Emmett Till threatening that white girl?
They aren't just talking about Karmelo Anthony as an isolated incident. This is a strategic play meant to push a dangerous narrative. They want to paint black people with a broad, harmful brush, as though we're all violent or unworthy. It's the kind of damaging rhetoric designed to divide and weaken us. So, stay alert. This goes far beyond Karmelo. It's about controlling the story and undermining black communities through stereotypes and fear-mongering. We have to recognize it for what it is, and refuse to let it take hold. Live among white communities. Nah, man, they lack basic human empathy. This isn't just a casual observation. It's a tired, recycled narrative straight out of white supremacist rhetoric. These are the same old talking points they keep repeating endlessly without adding any new insight or compassion. But here's the disturbing part. They're now twisting the Karmelo Anthony case to fuel this harmful narrative. They're not using Karmelo Anthony's situation to reflect honestly on how tragic events like George Floyd's death or Trayvon Martin's shooting were profoundly unjust. No, instead, they're weaponizing Karmelo Anthony's case to spread a deeply offensive and inaccurate message that Emmett Till, a young boy whose murder sparked the civil rights movement, was somehow to blame for what happened to him. They portray Emmett Till as the instigator and the white woman as the victim. Think about that for a moment. Emmett Till, a 14-year-old boy, brutally taken from his home while he was asleep, dragged away, and lynched by a group of white men. The sheer horror of this tragedy should shake any person with a conscience to their core. Yet, this is the narrative they choose to erase his humanity. They seized on the more recent tragedy of Austin McKev being murdered after a confrontation with Karmelo Anthony to twist the story and deny empathy to Emmett Till's memory. What's even more chilling, Those same men who killed Emmett Till faced a trial, and the jury, made up entirely of white men, declared them innocent. The system itself failed to deliver justice for that innocent boy. If you really believe you can't see the injustice in this, the blatant denial of empathy and truth, then I don't know what to say. It's a dangerous erasure of history, a cruel manipulation designed to confuse empathy and rewrite painful truths. When you look closely at these stories, the brutal injustice of Emmett Till, and now the situation with Austin Metcalf, something important becomes crystal clear. If you can't see the heartbreak, the sheer tragedy in Emmett Till's story, but you're quick to feel it for Austin Metcalf, that reveals a lot about your perspective. It shows where your heart and motivation truly lie. And knowing that Charleston White is aligning himself with those kinds of people who choose sides based on convenience rather than true justice, it's painful to watch. Honest pain. It cuts deep because Charleston has influence. And when that influence is used the wrong way, it can cause real harm. It's not just disappointing, it feels like a betrayal of the movement and everything so many have fought for. But I want to hear from you. Drop a comment down below and let me know what you think about all this. Has Charleston White crossed a line? Is this a moment where we have to rethink whose voices we listen to? Your opinion matters, so don't hold back. And if you're still watching, that means you care about these discussions. Show some love by hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel for more honest conversations, and sharing this video so your friends can join in too. Alright fam, that's it from me today. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.